All right, in this video, we're gonna build an entire golf simulator in this room, but first, Mike, we gotta get rid of all this furniture. You ready? Well, that was easy. All right, that's right. We're gonna show you how to build an affordable home golf simulator right here in this room. And then when we're all done, we're gonna take the whole thing back down and send it to one of you. That's right, we've got an epic giveaway worth $5,000. So let's not keep you waiting. Let's get these boxes opened up, show you what we've got in here, and then we're gonna walk you through step by step so you can see out at home how you can build your own home golf simulator, every golfer's dream.
All right, let's get to work.
All right, so as Mike is getting everything out of the boxes here and laid out, let's talk about that one important keyword, affordability, because we know affordability is all very relative. And we're gonna talk, as we go through this video, we're gonna talk about ways that you can modify this type of simulator build for different budgets. But one thing we gotta say is, when you think of golf simulators, they can get incredibly expensive, even upwards of $50,000 or more. That's why when we say something like what we're gonna build here, it's actually quite incredible that it's all able to be accomplished for $5,000, which puts it in reach for a lot of people who might previously have thought that there was no way they could afford a home simulator. So our goal in this video is to show you how to do that. And like I said, we're gonna show you some modifications to do this at different budgets. But first, let's get everything laid out. We're gonna talk about what specifically this package is, and we're gonna show you all the components. All right, as Mike opens these last couple boxes, I want to do a special thanks, of course, to Carl's Place. You see the names all over here. They're the ones who have sponsored this incredible giveaway. And in this particular video, we're going to be building what's called the Red Tee package from Carl's Place. And one thing that I love about the packages is there's a number of different pre-spec'd out packages that you can choose from that makes your life very easy. You can just pick one, the boxes arrive as you see here, and it's as simple as setting it up like we're doing here. But if you require any customization, you can also build a fully custom setup, which we're gonna get into in a minute and tell you a little bit more about how that's done, because different places have different space requirements, and sometimes going custom is best. But what we love most about these packages is how easy they are to both purchase, build, and use. All right, so here's everything laid out. This is all part of that Red Tees package from Carl's Place. The good news is you see it here, it doesn't look too intimidating, and it's pretty straightforward. You've got your bars here and these angles, which are all gonna be part of the frame, which we're going to build in a moment. And then here are your components for the screen. One thing I will say, this impact screen right here is super, you can barely lift this thing up with one hand, super heavy duty stuff. Just take a listen to that. So that is a very important component to make sure you can stop golf balls. And then over here too, we've got the projector. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. That's what's really gonna make this an immersive feel. And one of the most important things, which we're gonna dive into in a second, the brains itself. We were using a SkyTrack for this Red Tee package. We'll tell you about that just in a minute, but that is pretty much it. This is everything we're gonna use here to build this enclosure. Oh, and don't forget about the hitting mat. The hitting mat is important unless you want to take a chunk out of your floor.
Please don't.
All right, so let's talk about the brains, because the way I see it, and I think the easiest way to explain it after having built many simulators, is that every simulator has what I call two core components, the brains and the body. And the good news is that both of them, not only can they be customized, but they can also be upgraded and adapted over time as your own needs change. So you're gonna have things like space requirements, you're gonna have budgetary requirements. The good news is you can get started somewhere, and that's what we like about this Red Tee package. It includes everything you need to get started for $5,000, and then over time, you can change that, you can adapt that. So the Red Tee package comes with the SkyTrack, which I'll talk about in just a second, but there are other options. This is what I call the brains, because this is the actual launch monitor, which is going to calculate each shot and what's gonna create that simulator. But again, This being the brains, the body is the enclosure itself. We're gonna build this enclosure here and we're gonna talk about some of the dimensions. But the good news is, if you have some very specific requirements for your space and your size, you can work with Carl's Place to help design a custom enclosure. They'll even provide things like 3D renderings. They'll walk you through the process. So if out of the box package like this doesn't work for you, there are still options. It's all about your space requirements. So getting back to the brains, in this case, we're using the SkyTrack. This is an optical solution. So it uses cameras that are built into it. That's what it does to measure the initial launch characteristics of the ball. And it uses that to create the simulation. Only thing that remains now is to start setting up this frame. Then we can plug this in, show you how it works, and start hitting some golf balls. All right, I see you got the tape measure out. Where are you thinking about putting this thing?
I like right here. I mean, this is the perfect area for it. We need 8.5. We got plenty of that in this room. It's a high ceiling living room. And we'll talk about garage space in a second, but I think this is perfect, Frank, because it's 10 feet across. Again, we have that space here. And of course, if you don't have a room like this, you may have a garage. It'll fit in most garages because again, 8 feet, 8.5 feet high, 10 feet across might fit in most garages.
And before we jump into this, another thing I'll say that I really like is Carl's Place provides some excellent instructions that they put together themselves. It's got pictures in there. It's got everything. So this is gonna be easy to snap together. So let's not keep you guys waiting. Let's start putting this thing together right now. All right, well, this is the spot where we're talking about having two guys makes life a lot easier. Although this could be done by yourself, best to do it with somebody else. Like I said, you'll make a lot of new friends with your new simulator anyway.
Yeah, I know. I may just leave this up so I get more friends.
Okay, the frame is up, and the good news is this is the first time you can see the actual footprint and the size of this simulator. It's starting to come together. The next thing is the enclosure. It's a black heavy tarp. We're gonna throw that over, and then it's got a combination of Velcro and those ties that we're gonna use to secure it to the frame. And as we add that more bulk, all of this frame will start to tighten up. And as you see Mike doing up there, you can go up there, and as it settles into place, start to tighten all of those bolts so that this thing is rock solid. I think that looks pretty good. Overall, it only took about 30 minutes to get to where we are right now. Next up, the screen. All right, so it's time for the impact screen, and the cool thing is it attaches to the frame easily, same thing with these bungees, and what you can do is you can vary the amount of bungees you put on it depending on how much tension you want. So that'll depend on how much bounce back you want. So if you want the ball to kind of deaden and drop down, you can go a little looser. If you want it to pop back a little more, you can go tighter. Also, what you'll see here are these Velcro spots, and that's where the foam inserts, which we have right over here, will eventually slide in, and that'll create a nice cushion around the corners and absorb any blows that are headed towards the frame. So the frame will be very heavily protected. Now it's just a matter of getting this thing up. Again, teamwork makes the dream work on this. We're gonna pop this up, and then we're gonna have an enclosure. So one more thing here, we've got this weighted little, almost like a sand thing. It's pretty heavy, and that's just gonna help keep this thing down. The whole idea is, the reason why this is so tough is to absorb the impact of a real golf ball. So just making sure we've got all the sides tight with the bungees and the bottom with this, and this thing's gonna be good to go. All right, so for that extra layer of comfort, you've got these side protectors that are gonna extend out another 8 feet. So what that'll do is give you a whole lot of added comfort for those real errant shots. We're not gonna set this up right now because we're taking this whole thing back down in about 10 minutes, but just to give you an idea, just like how everything else went up, this Velcros and snaps together, and then boom. So if you've got a more permanent enclosure than what we're doing today, you're definitely gonna wanna add these. All right, so as you can see, 95% of the work is setting up the enclosure. It took us about an hour to an hour and a half to get that thing all up the way we like it. And now let's talk about the simulator itself. And in a minute, hang on, because we are gonna tell you how to enter that giveaway. I know a lot of you are chomping at the bit. because you want this to be in your house, and I don't blame you. But we've got the SkyTrack set up, and excuse this being a little bit jerry-rigged, it's because it's temporary. But we wanted to be able to show you all of the components. So you've got the SkyTrack, which we talked about earlier. That's our launch monitor, and we've got our projector set up. Now, in a true application, you're obviously gonna find a little bit of a better spot for your projector. Ideally, it's hung overhead, so it's out of the way and you're not casting a shadow on it. The good news is if you're working with Carl's Place, you can have their professionals help you, guide you through that process. That's what they're there for. That's really the service that makes it worth its weight in gold, is understanding your space and where you're able to put it. And I said earlier in the video about the idea that things can be changed, it's modular, can adapt over time. Things like your launch monitor, things like your projector are things that over time you can invest in a more powerful projector if you need it for your space, or even once you've got your enclosure, and eventually if you wanted to swap it out for another launch monitor system, you can do that. That's where it becomes really modular. As you can see here, I've got it connected to my iPad. So that's all I need, there's no computer needed. And then the iPad, I use this simple dongle that converts from the USB-C to the HDMI, and that's what goes into the projector. That's what's creating this immersive experience. So you will need either some sort of an iPad or other mobile device to connect to the SkyTrack. Once you've got that, connects to your projector, you're good to go. Let's get some golf clubs, let's hit some golf balls, and then we'll talk about how to enter that giveaway. Okay, so Mike's all set up, and the cool thing too is with the SkyTrack, it actually provides a laser there on the floor, which tells you the exact spot to place the ball. Remember, this is a camera system, so it's gonna read the ball at launch, and it's gonna get all that information to say how far the ball went. It's gonna read spin and things like that. So Mike, take it away,
I'm thinking about hitting a full swing 7-iron in my living room with real golf balls behind, right in front of the window. That's what's going in my head. Here we go. I'm so nervous when I hit that.
See, now I know you're nervous because you're in your living room, but the reality is, this is what I like about this enclosure. Don't forget, it's 10 feet wide.
Yeah.
So between the 10 feet and the 8 feet tall, this is really protecting a lot. Those windows are not as much in play as you think. It's 5 feet deep.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if we really wanted to, we could add those sides that we talked about earlier. So although it's different to be hitting in your living room, you can comfortably swing with an enclosure of this size. All right, so here it is, the immersive simulator experience that so many of us wanna have. And hard to believe that this can all be done for $5,000, including the projector, the launch monitor, and this big, sturdy enclosure you guys saw us put together. But that's the nice thing about buying it in that red tea package. But again, I know a big question a lot of you are gonna ask, still, $5,000, it's certainly not pocket change. If you're gonna spend that kind of money, what kind of accuracy can you get? And as we're watching Mike take cuts here, we can see it's really accurate, and there's been countless videos out there that have been done on all of the different launch monitors that are available on the market, especially things like the SkyTrack, comparing it to much more expensive units. In a lot of ways, this SkyTrack and some of the other very affordable launch monitors have really held up against the big boys. But do your research. Talk to the experts at Carl's Place. They'll help you get you hooked up with the right launch monitor and enclosure combination that fits your space and your needs.
All right, now it's time to break this whole thing down and send it to one of you. Huge thanks to Carl's Place for helping us out with this giveaway. Guys, click the link in the video description to enter. Good luck.